amount of people. Well, maybe we should, I don't know. Should we just try?
You want to do the dance?
Yeah, but then it's going to get all rowdy after the dance. All right, I'm going to try to do the raffle, but there's not a lot of people in here, so I might be pulling for a while. Did you all like the workshops? All right. Oh, wow, this person is here. Cedric Taylor. How did I pull like everybody from my project? I pulled 3 people from my project, and I really didn't rig it, but you got the double one.
You know, I just want to thank everyone for...
All right, are we ready to introduce? All right, Miss Gibson is going to introduce our closing performance.
Good evening once again. I'd like to say that November is Native American Awareness Month. Okay. As I was saying, November is Native American Awareness Month. And to close out our International Conference on Stigma, we welcome Sean Onmaker, also known as Sits with Eagles, and Peter Brooks, a member of the Piscataway community, member of the Maryland Commission of Indian Affairs, and the Maryland State Arts Council. At this time, I will read an introduction prepared by Peter Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, binaries across the spectrum, the International Conference on Stigma is proud to make history in this closing session. The history which is going to be recited occurs so close to the home of Sean Onmaker, whose story is going to be danced and interpreted by one of our own from the District of Columbia, representing the Piscataway Indian Nation, the grandson of Cab Calloway, Peter Brooks. Cab Calloway was the first person of color to spin 1 million records for a single song. The song was Minnie the Moocher, recorded in 1931. He is also the first to have nationally syndicated radio show called Quizzical. And he helped shape the future of music through his influence on latest singers such as Nat King Cole, Michael Jackson, and Tupac Shakur. This presentation is also epic in that Peter's tribe, the Piscataway, were dispersed by the early 1700s, while Sean's tribe did not surrender until 1890, almost 200 years later. Dances like this would have been extremely popular in the eastern woodlands today. It is a special treat as we get a glimpse into the stigmatized history of Turtle Island, which we call North America. And I've been asked to respectfully call for 2 push-ups because Peter is in the Golden Age category. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce an enrolled member of the Anai Gross Ventry White Clay people, descendant of Nakota, Wakapa, Wiskasa, Stoney, and Rocky Boy Cree, Pembina Chippewa, from the Fort Belknap Indian community located in northeastern Montana, the general manager of the Buffalo Horse Incorporated, otherwise BHI, Wami Gichi Anaga. He sits with Eagles, Mr. Sean Onmaker. At this time, we will be presented with a performance by Mr. Sean Arnmaker and Mr. Peter Brooks.
Ha midagiabi, magiabi womni gichonga. Amawashte, hihane washte, nakoni abishka, wisichu iabishka, Sean Ironmaker, Aninan, Nakon, Anishinaabe, Shahia. What I said in my language, which is Nakota, is hello, my relatives. Magiabi, they call me Womni Gichianga. In my ceremonial name is that, and it was what it means is like an eagle that sits and watches. And so I was given that name through a rite of passage. Our people, in order to earn a ceremonial name, we have to participate in our annual, what's called a Sundance, an annual ceremony. And when you're needing or asking for a name, or to wear regalia or to wear feathers of an eagle, we have to go through that rite of passage. We call it emblesia, and then you go and fast for 4 days and 4 nights without food and water, and then you repeat that for 4 years, and then at that time, once you've satisfied your sacrifice, to Wakantanka, we say Wakantanka for great mystery for God, and then a holy man will bring to you his feelings as to what your name should be. And then I also said that I'm from the Aninan, which is the White Clay people, and the Nakota people. Anishinaabe is our Pembina Chippewa, and then Shahia is Cree. And I, again, thank you for the introduction for Ms. Gibson. She did a great job of, enunciating the words, for our language. And it makes me feel good because our language is so ancient that there's still no words in English. And so for her to, attempt to enunciate that, I really appreciate it. And then my English name is Sean Ironmaker, and a lot of times I get questions asked as to, what does Ironmaker mean? And so, in reality, it's from a period of time back in the late 1800s when the United States government declared war on our people because we wouldn't surrender, to assimilate into the European culture. So when we stood our ground, the United States government brought out the military, and when we were captured, a little bit of history for you that you won't learn in the history books. In north central Montana, or the northwestern part of the United States, it starts with in Omaha, Nebraska, in Bismarck, North Dakota, and parts of Montana. What those were, they were garrison camps that were internment camps. So you had, Fort Omaha, and then the next was Fort Abraham Lincoln in Bismarck, North Dakota, and you had Fort Peck, where Glasgow, Montana is, and Fort Assiniboine, where current-day Havre, Montana is. And so when my ancestor was captured, what they would do is they would, herd us all into a fenced-in area, take the children from their families, and then at that time there was the Great Northern Railroad, which still exists. They would put all the children on a train in a boxcar, much like, the Holocaust victims that we witnessed in the past. And they would then ship them to the first Indian boarding school, which is in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. It was a Carlisle Reform School. And when my ancestor was taken there, they gave him a Christian name first. They named him James. And then they enslaved all of our children, so when they arrived, they would shave their hair off and put them in a uniform. They weren't allowed to speak their language. So they were, my ancestor, he worked in a blacksmith shop, so his name became James Ironmaker. And so I'm always proud because I'm still here, thanks to his, survival. And so, our people, we always try to reclaim repatriation, and we say that because to this day, the United States Army or the Army Corps of Engineers, they don't want to admit that occurred. The city of Carlisle, they said, oh, there was never, a reform school here. So the Army Corps of Engineers, what they've done is they've put up blinders and fence up around the area, and there's multiple mass graves of our children that perished and died. And so the government now has been doing ancestral testing and then contacting the tribes where the remains belong to, and then we've been allowed to come and reclaim our ancestors. And so from my tribe recently, there were 4 children that were identified that were recently returned. So a group of our leadership came here, did a ceremony, and brought their remains back to Montana. And so a little part of, when we're talking about stigma, these are the things that, in honor of Native American Heritage Month, I'm so thankful that, we actually have a recognition, on a federal and, worldwide level, I should say. But, the example that we're going to share today, I wanted to read with you to kind of put you into the mood. If you've never seen, a dancer in regalia, you'll see Mr. Brooks, his regalia there would be what in Atlantic or Eastern woodland male would have worn. And then, when we did our dancing, we have specific songs that go with that type of dancing. And so the regalia, as I mentioned, what he is wearing, the tribes that I represent in Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, we would call that like a northern style traditional type of dance. Traditional meaning that we're remembering, who our people were. When a male dances, they're telling a story. So he's telling a story in his movements. And so, again, I want to prepare you. I want to thank Mr. Brooks. He shared and wrote out, which I feel is just phenomenal to share and read to you. So before we begin, I'd like to share a little bit about, what we're going to show you. And then once he begins dancing, I'm going to be singing 2 different types of songs. And there are verses to the song, and so I'm going to do 2 verses of one type of song, and then I'll do 2 verses of another type of song. We'll give him a break, though, so he can kind of catch his breath, so we'll prepare that. So, when we think of, when I'm sharing the words of Mr. Brooks and myself, we think of Native Americans as with the greatest stigma for us is, we're always on the losing side. Our futures, always seems dark because, our people are still living on reservations. We're still considered wards of the government, and we're not considered a human being. Examples would be if you were to go down to the National Archives and look at the Declaration of Independence, and it says, all men are created equal except for merciless Indian savages. And so to this day, we're still considered non-human and a merciless Indian savage. So when we're speaking of our Piscataway Nation for Mr. Brooks, we everything that we're doing, it's still being recognized by our family and our people, and we're sharing our honor to acknowledge, everyone that has come to this country, that we're neighborly and we consider you a human being as well. In our, like in Nakota language, Nakota means the people. And so all of our tribes, and when you put it into perspective, all of North and South America, there are over 1,000 plus different types of tribes, and we all speak a different language. And then, our origination and our creation in our history, we call North America Turtle Island. And, much of in science, we're being told that, we traveled across a land bridge from Europe and Asia and came to this continent. We disagree because, if we look back, 49,500 years before Europeans arrived, we were here. And in all of our creation stories, with all the 1,000+ tribes, we talk about Turtle Island. And the story of Turtle Island is that, there was a period where Creator was creating this place. And there was a female, we call her Sky Woman. And then I want to share with you too that there are over 900 different types of tribes, and this is just from my tribe, from the Dakota and Anishinaabe people. And so Sky Woman, she was curious. She was wondering what Wakantanka was doing, what Creator was doing. She seen down where there, like it was just shiny and it was glimmering, and she was really fascinated by it. And one day she leaned over too far, and she fell from Sky World down to Water World, where this earth was being created. On her descent, she had grabbed onto some branches and trees and didn't save her fall, and she landed in the water. All the water beings noticed, that she had fallen into the water, so they all came to her rescue. The otter, the beaver, and then especially the turtle, the tortoise. He came up and he caught her and brought her back up again, to the surface of the water on his back. And the other creatures of the water began bringing mud up from the bottom of the water, so she had a place to sit and she was comfortable on Turtle's back. And she felt so good about this and thankful. The seeds that she had, that she grabbed onto the tree on her descent, she put those seeds into the ground, the mud on the back of Turtle. And Wakantanka, Creator, he thought this was a good idea. This is a great idea. So then he came down and the mud on Turtle's back, he started creating man and woman. And so that's our origination of how we came here to Turtle Island. So we talk about this continent, when Europeans had first come here, we reached out to them as guests. And, we're coming up to a national holiday, which is Thanksgiving next week, and a lot of times I get asked, do I celebrate Thanksgiving? I personally do not. And then a little bit of history that you will never learn in a history book, that Benjamin Franklin created the Thanksgiving story, and it's to romanticize, the atrocities that the Europeans created on our people when they arrived, to make it a beautiful story. And so when I think of that, our people were so underserved, underrecognized as Native Americans, but we have guests that have come into this country, and then now we're the guest. And so, when we reach out to the federal government, we tell them, hey, we all have our unique ways, our unique language. It'd be no different than if any other culture were to come to this continent, and this government would recognize them. They would honor their language. They would honor their clothing. They would honor, their traditions. But yet our people, we are not recognized. We're still considered savages. And so So this pride that we carry in ourselves, first and foremost, I am an American citizen, so I carry that pride in myself. But the story that goes with this dance, is a vision of that type of atrocity. This type of dance that we're going to be doing here, the first song that I'm going to sing is what we call a horse thief song. So when our people, when we were, maybe going into a conflict, we would steal the horses of our enemy first, so they were disabled, and we were good horsemen, and we still are, so we'd be able to capture their horses and be at a better advantage to it. And there was a famous battle that occurred about 45 miles from the home of my people. Our reservation is called the Fort Belknap Reservation. We're about 30 miles from the Canadian border. We're right smack in the middle of Montana. And this battle that occurred there was the result of the plight of the Nez Perce tribe. They lived in Washington State, Idaho area, and they refused to move and be living on a reservation. So they chose to maybe, if they went to Canada, because at the time the United States and Canada created a boundary, they thought if they went to Canada that they would remain free. So the battle, it's called the Battle of the Bears Paw Mountains. And what's unique about it is, like I said, this tribe, the Nez Perce, led by Chief Joseph, he had taken all of his people, women and children, elders, over a 1,700-mile trek from, the areas of Washington State, Idaho, Montana, and over 11 weeks they had different skirmishes with the cavalry that were chasing them. And I find it suitable to share this story because the general that was chasing them was the namesake for this school, Howard University. His name was General Oliver Otis Howard. He's famous for being one of the greatest Indian fighters when it came to the assimilation belief of that time was kill the Indian, save the man. And so he was, that was his mission and his goal. General Howard and his army, they made it, like I said, 40 miles to the Canadian border, and that was where our people, the Nez Perce, were defeated, almost killed off completely, and they were that close to freedom in their minds. And so, and then there's several famous phrases from Chief Joseph that he'll fight no more forever. He wanted to find peace in his people. So during this battle, it was the first time that they introduced the howitzer cannon. And so you can imagine what that must have been for, guerrilla warfare fighting that my people had with our bows and arrows and spears, and to have a cannon fired at you. And so, as we're revisiting this image and this dance and this song, you'll hear certain points in the song where there'll be a loud boom, and that's representing the cannon as it's being fired. And what you'll see Mr. Brooks in his dancing, what our men would do is the warriors would put themselves out front, and then when they would wave their hands in the air, try to get the cavalrymen to shoot at them, and then what their purpose is to let the women and children and the elders run to safety. So this story is being represented in this song, and so this is, I appreciate your time. I don't want to ramble too much, but I wanted to share that. So I'm going to begin with what we call a horse thief song. Give him a hand. It's a horse thief song. Well, while he catches his breath, we didn't bring him a bottle of water, and then he considers himself part of the golden age group, and I disagree. He's a very fine dancer. So let's give him another round of applause. Thank you so much, Mr. Brooks. So this next song is going to represent what we call that duck and dive. So each time the cannon will fire, the men will freeze and wait for them to reload, and then signal again to the others that it's time to run. It's time to run away. And so you'll hear these beats in this song. And again, I'll be sharing 2 verses of that. And with Mr. Brooks, if you're ready, very good. Give a round of applause. The duck and dive. Well, thank you all so very much. I really do appreciate Ms. Gibson's invitation to Mr. Brooks and I, and it's been a pleasure to, serve as the closing portion of this international conference. And thank you for allowing us to share a little bit about how our stigma is, in this world, and representing all of the tribes, throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and South America as well. So, and then I wanted to kind of throw a prop out there. If you wanted to see more dancing and singing, tomorrow the Baltimore American Indian Center is hosting the annual powwow at the Maryland State Fairgrounds at Timonian. It's going to be from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'll be serving as the arena director, and we'll see Peter Brooks there as well. Right. Here's a thought. We would love to, be a part of, getting to diversity, equality, cultural representation at Howard University. It would be so amazing if, we were able to create a committee here to host a powwow of the dancing and singing for tribal nations, and then to honor, our people that are no longer here, but just descendants, the Anacostia, the Piscataway, the Lumbee, the Tuscarora, and the Susquehanna. So that's just one thought that we'd love to share. We'd love to be a part of that. Thank you once again.
almost there, folks, don't leave. By the way, after you get up, please make sure you take a few flowers, few roses from the. So don't leave. And there is a story behind it. And okay, and I'll make it very short. I think all of you would agree that we had a wonderful, wonderful day. I was highly motivated, inspired. I cried. Just loved all the presentations, loved all the discussion, participation from the audience. God bless you all. It was beautiful. Can I move? So we talked a lot about shame, and I can't move it. Maybe I should. Which way? So we know stigma, shame is a major part of stigma, and we carry it with us, and everybody has their stigma, okay? None of us is immune to being stigmatized. I think that's recognition in itself, that every single person is carrying some very, very, very deep stigma that and shame that we don't know about. And I think that recognition that everybody, every human being, the whole humanity has some brokenness, I think it would sometimes help us understand. I think there is a problem with language, there's a problem with vocabulary, that most of us never learn to express our emotions appropriately. So when people are interviewed to describe their emotions, they end up describing, majority would say, I'm happy, I'm sad, and I'm angry. And majority of them, take on angriness because that empowers them, that violence, that power, and so the vocabulary, whether we are talking to ourselves or whether we are talking to other people, is very limited. I think that's a very deep point, something to think about, that we need to give ourselves vocabulary to talk to ourselves, to our own shame. I think that conversation, telling ourselves or retelling ourselves the same story over and over, and removing the shame from it, and maybe transforming it into guilt. You see, shame is I'm bad. Guilt is I did something bad. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference. And we all need to take ourselves from that point of where we feel we are bad. I'm bad. And it may be because of the way we've been blamed. I'm dirty. I'm filthy. I'm nothing. I may have done something bad, but I'm enough. I'm enough. I'm good enough. I think that's a crucial point. To many of these topics, can we move? Can we move? And I just want us to go all the way to where the flowers are. Because people are tired, they don't want to hear anything more about stigma. Can we move all the way down? Now, so some of you who were here before heard the story. Some of you heard this story before, but I heard it from Dr. Solomon firsthand. She was our guest speaker from India. She took care of tens of thousands of people with HIV in southern India. And she came and she gave a lecture and she shared this story. And I think this is the best closure to this meeting. She said, I had this woman I was taking care of. She was 19 or 20, and her parents got her engaged to this young guy. Now, he had acquired HIV at time of birth, or maybe from transfusion or from whatever. It doesn't really matter. And she had HIV, and Dr. Suniti Solomon was treating her. Now, very few people, even her parents, didn't know much about it. So certainly the future husband didn't know about it. And every day it would clench on her heart. It would really, she stayed up at night, how can I face my husband? I haven't told him that I have HIV. So she begged Dr. Solomon to disclose the diagnosis to him. So she said, are you ready? Because he may get very upset. And she said, I'm very ready. So Dr. Solomon got both of them together, and she told the young man about her HIV. She told the story. The guy stared at her, and he stared at Dr. Solomon, and then he got up and he ran away. And both Dr. Solomon and the girl, they were crying that, what did we do? What did we do? But 10 minutes later, the guy was back with a bunch of flowers. He says, thank you for telling me I love you even more than I loved before. And I think that's the best ending. Disclosure, sharing our story, really is the most important part of our love for each other. Let's make it possible for other people to show empathy. Let it hang out. Let empathy hang out. Let us be empathetic human beings and let it show, so that it makes it easy for others to tell their story. God bless you all. You're all so wonderful. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying to the end. Please take some roses. So I'm saying it with roses too.
If there's any speakers here that did not get their mug, go get your mug at the table over there, or I can help you. Or if you spoke Wednesday, but you're here, we also have a mug for you. And Vicki, we have a mug for you. All right. Did you get your mug?
Yes.
Did you get your mug? You didn't get your mug? Microphone.
I said everything flowed seamlessly. He said as always.
Thank you, guys.
Hold on, let me put on. Yeah, give it 2 seconds.